Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things. One is your coming soon listing. So we know that it is a buyer's market right now, or excuse me, it is a seller's market. Todd, help me out here. You just said it. It's a
Seller's market, yeah, buddy.
seller's market. Thanks, Todd. It is a seller's market. So today we're going to be talking about how to add our buyers into Buyside and how we can add in our coming soon listings, both of which are going to help us in today's market. So when we're adding in our coming soon listings, this is going to show you all of the interest that your listing has before it hits the MLS. So if somebody is interested in seeing what's going on in the market, in how many buyers they could potentially have, but they're not quite ready to put it on the MLS yet, we can go ahead and show them that just within our brokerage. So how many buyers there currently are. Now, we all know that there is a lot of buyers out there right now, especially because loans are so cheap. We've seen that. So today we're also going to talk about how to add a buyer into your system. So when we have those coming soon listings, you're able to see the matches for all of those people. So the more people in our brokerage that add in their buyers, the more people are going to get matched with those listings when they come up. So those are the two things that we're going to be looking at today. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so we see a couple of listings on the bottom of our page here. So we have our listing, and we can see that it is coming soon, and you can see that on the bottom there. It is in red, coming soon listing. Now, how do we add that in? Well, there's two ways. One, we can go to add listing on the top of the page, or we can go up to add and select add listing. So that's how we would do both of those. And right now you can see two of these, quiet listings and coming soon. Now that is on our, the quiet listing is something that is never going to reach the MLS. This is a non-MLS listing, and it's something that not everyone has. And that's because in some areas this isn't allowed. You can't do that. So we do want to make sure that we adhere to any guidelines. So if this is not allowed in your area, in your part of the country, you're not going to see this inside of your dashboard here. But we're going to come into coming soon listings, and we'll go ahead and select add. And now it's going to bring up the listing page. So what do we have to add on our listing page here? Okay, so the first is if we're making a coming soon listing, there's two options. One, you can make this confidential. So when somebody is going to search this out inside of Buyside, inside of your dashboard, when they're seeing the matches, it's not going to show the address. It'll show them the listing. It'll show them the bedrooms and bathrooms, the square footage, but it's not going to show them where it is because some people aren't ready. They're not quite ready to have somebody walk through their house or have people drive by in front. They don't want that yet. So we can make this confidential, but we'll make this one viewable by all users. So that way we can see that interest. If somebody sees it pop up, an agent, they can drive by it, they can see the address. So now we're going to go to address, and we're going to go ahead and add one in. So there's one. We'll go and select that. And we'll make sure that we do this so that we can select it off of the drop-down menu. So let's go ahead and select Kathy Court. You can see the drop-down in the background there. So let's go ahead and click on that, and it does populate it for you. So it'll put in the county, the school district, and all that great stuff in here. So the bedrooms and bathrooms. So it will recognize it. Now you will notice that in a few of these fields, it is bold and it has a star. So that means that it is required. So that in that area, we have something that we need to put in here. So the bedrooms and bathrooms. Now we can see that it did get pre-populated. So we'll add that in. Now you can have some other stuff in here. So like the age of the home, if that's important, we can add that in there. So 11 to 25 years old, the approximate lot size, and then of course the listing description. Now most of us will already have this because that's something that gets put into the MLS. That's a description that we write that is eventually going to make it to the MLS. So we'll have that. So we can just copy and paste it, or if you wanted to write some new stuff, you can. And then the good stuff here. So what is the asking price for our listing? So this one, if I remember correctly, it was 930 something thousand. So we'll go ahead and make it that. And then what is our broker commission? We don't have to add that in there. I will. Let's say 3%. And then when's it going live on the MLS? Now I have some room here. I can schedule this out up to 3 months. So this was really helpful, especially during the beginning of that shelter in place, because we didn't know when the market was going to pick back up again. We now know that the market's doing great, but Before we didn't. So we were able to push this out by 3 months so that we could see the interest, get the buyer interest, start to talk to some of those other agents. But now we're able to still do that. So we can come in here and add our coming soon listings. And then of course, when will the showing start? So if we wanted to start showing this in 2 weeks, we can. We wanted to give that 2-week period so we can see some of the buyer matches, talk about it with our client, and all of those other things. Yeah, again, you can make this whatever you want it to be. And then we have our images. Now, this might be another reason that we use our coming soon listings, is that you have a photographer, but they haven't given you the images yet. They haven't made it out to the listing. So we want to start the process, get the interest for this listing, but we may not have those pictures yet. So we're not going to upload that file, and we'll go ahead and select add listing. There we go. So once we select add listing, it'll put it into your dashboard, and it'll take you to the listing page. Now we can see it says coming soon listing up on top, and we have our address here, and you're also going to see the amount of buyers in the system. So I can see I've got 8. This is a demo account, so your actual brokerages will have much more, but you're going to see a lot of buyers in here. And if we scroll on down, you're going to see those buyers. So you can start to get that interest with those buyers. So if you have that coming soon listing, and we were wanted to explore, who's going to be the best buyer for this listing even before it hits that MLS, we can do that here. So we can see we've got the stars. I can see I've got 3 stars, 4 stars, a lot of people that are serious buyers, right? And we know what that means. So let's go ahead and click on one of these. This one's not mine. It is not. So perfect. So this is a buyer. And we can see over on the right-hand side here, down in this box, that's how I'd contact that other agent. So I can go ahead and include that listing and say, hey, I have a listing. There we go. Or whatever you wanted that message to be. But we can then contact the agent that represents this buyer, somebody whose buyer profile matches the listing that you just put in. So we can start to get that interest. And remember, this is only within your brokerage. So this is an internal facing tool. It's something that you can use that's going to be like raising your hand in the Monday meeting, right? So somebody says, hey, I've got a listing, 930,000 in this area, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Who's got a buyer? And somebody else raises their hand and says, I've got somebody who's looking for just that. So you are using this as a tool to get all of those people within your brokerage, the interest, who has the listing and who has the buyer, and you can see them all in one place. Now, we talked about stars just a minute ago, and this is something that listing agents will look at inside of Buyside. And that is, how strong is the buyer? How can we see if this is a realistic buyer? Well, one is it's got the buyer strength here. So here's our 4 stars. So we can see, do they have a purchase by date? That's important. Are they actually ready to buy? Are they ready to buy? Yes or no? So that's another way of asking our question there. Are they pre-qualified? Can they afford it? That's important. So we want to make sure that they can. And are they represented by an agent? So these 4 things tell us that this is a very strong buyer. So we're able to see all 4 of those things when we're looking at that buyer. So who do we contact when it's time to start seeing the interest? So now we've got our buyers here, and we can reach out to that buyer's agent and start to get that process. So if I'm going to be waiting for another week for my images of the listing itself, we can start that process, get a hold of this agent, and then they can talk to their client. And then when we're ready to push this to the MLS, or it's ready to go online, we can have it go live, but we've already got somebody lined up. So that's the coming soon listing portion of this. So that's where you can actually see the listing itself, and all of those potential buyers that could feasibly buy your listing. So there we have it. Okay, so we're going to go back to our dashboard, and the next thing we're going to talk about is your buyers. So how do I add buyers in there? Like we just said, it's a seller market. So let's put some buyers in there so we can see the interest for all of these listings. So if I'm working with somebody, who are they and how do I get them in here? So I can see I've got 2 people. I've got Herb and Ruby. Let's go ahead and put another person in here. We're going to select add buyer. So if you don't see the buyer that you're working with already in the system, we can add that in there. Now, remember, there are certain places where this buyer will import automatically. So if they're going onto your agent website and they're favoriting listings, if they are in your CRM as an active buyer, it'll come over. But we want to make sure that we see those buyers and that all of the information for their buyer profile is in there. So let's go ahead and select add buyer. And this is going to be the entire buyer profile. So whether they come in automatically or whether you put them in by hand, this is going to be the profile that's going to match with those listings. So it's important that we look at what it says in here. So we've got school districts. So let's go ahead and add one in here, Livermore Valley, and we can add in either cities or zip codes, 945. 50. So, and we can even put in a zip code 94551 if we wanted. There we go. So we can add that in. It's going to give you the area, right? So now we have our number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and we can see some of these are the same. They are mandatory fields. So let's go ahead and add in our bedrooms and bathrooms. And a bunch of these are not mandatory. So like the minimum square footage, again, if it's not important to your buyer, you don't have to have it in here. There's no reason that we would need to. The age of the home, as long as it's functioning, I'll live there. I'm in it. So I don't, it could be 100 years old, but still be a world-class listing. So that's not so important. So let's go ahead and say minimum square footage. That is important, 1,400 square feet. Number of floors. I've got 2 working knees. I can walk up some stairs. So let's say garage and parking, minimum 2 car. Let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, so now we've got our property types here. So what are the property types that we have? So is this a single family detached? Is it any one of these? Is it a condo, twin? So what type of listing is it? What is the property condition and what are they looking for? So is it turnkey? Does it need some love? Short sale? So we have those things. So let's say this is a turnkey. And then we have our house styles. Now, we also have public comments for your buyer. So this is similar to those listing comments that we saw on our listing that would go on the MLS, but this is a way for you to describe what your buyer is looking for. Who are they? Are they a family? Is it somebody looking for a temporary listing? Who is this person that you're talking about? So we can add in the comments so that when the listing agent looks, if they're looking for a specific type of person, they can find out who that person is in the description. All right, so let's go down to qualification status, and now this is the can we afford it? So are they pre-qualified? So we can add in our lender name, or we can add in cash. So are they a cash buyer? Sure, let's say they are. And let's say they have $930,000. Oh, no, that would be the minimum. Let's say 400,000, just to make this a big range. Sorry about that, everybody. And then our maximum price of, let's say 930,000. There we go. All right, so now, do we have a purchase by date? So let's say yes, we're looking to purchase in the next couple of weeks. And then what is the type of buyer? So we'll say it's a first-time home buyer because that is the most common type of buyer that we have. And then their information. Now, I do want to point this out ahead of time, and that is this information is only seen by you. That is important to know. No one else is going to see this. Not us, not your managers, no one. So we'll say this is Tommy Buyer. And then what is their contact? So we'll say tom@fake.com. There we go. So now we have that, and we'll select add buyer. And then it's asking you, do you want to have those public comments? So we'll add that in, and now we have our buyer. So we can see this is a strong buyer. So we've got all 4 of those stars and the buyer profile. Now what's great about this is if you click into your buyer, it's going to show you the listings that it matches with down below. So if you click on that buyer from your dashboard, you'll be able to see those actual listings and who that matches with. So we can see we've got 2 listings there. All right. Now, the last thing I'll show you is that you can share this on social media. So much like your home valuation site, you can see that you can share this on any one of our social sites. So your buyer itself. So if you click on Facebook, again, it's going to do that same thing where it'll show you the post and then we can send that out. So, hey, are you looking to sell? I have the buyers. So we can actually say that. And it is a way for you to generate new buyer leads and new seller leads. So if somebody's looking to sell, who are they going to contact? Probably the person that has somebody that'll buy their listing, right? And now if you are an agent and you're somebody who wants to buy a listing, you will contact the person who you know is representing those people. So just to show you what that looks like, you can click on public profile up in the top right, and that's going to take you to the social page. So what is actually going to get shared out? So we can see we've got, it's a 4-star buyer, where, what's the price range, and all of this great information. So somebody can see this on your social site. Maybe it's on your Facebook business page, on your Facebook page, however you wanted to send this out. we can do that. So then there's our full details, and we can see all this. But we give them that call to action so that they can reach out to you directly if they have any questions about real estate. Whew. Okay, that was a mouthful. So we went over our coming soon listings and adding in your buyers because it is such a great market to add this in. Now remember, when we're working with somebody, whether that be a seller client or a buyer client, how long does the average transaction take? Well, it's probably somewhere between 6 to 8 months, right? So now is the time. Strike while that iron is hot. Use the tools available at our disposal so that we can start to get those transactions once we move into the back half of the year. Okay, so that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, go ahead and let us know. So Todd, we're going to get started with our Q&A.
Let's do it.
All right. So our coming soon listings, one question we often get, I know this isn't in the chat just yet, but one question we often get is, who is able to see these listings? So if I put a coming soon and listing in there, does it go out to everybody? Is it a marketing tool? Who's going to see that?
These coming soon listings are going to go out to everybody inside your brokerage. So like Tom went over there, you see that first listing there is 9 matches. So those 9 agents that represent those matching buyers, they're going to get an email that a listing has been added that meets their criteria.
All right, perfect. Yes, so do keep that in mind that this is an internal tool. Now there are some rules that say that you can't market a listing on the MLS unless it's going to go, or excuse me, you can't market a listing unless it's going to hit the MLS within 48 hours or something like that. That's the rule. But keep in mind, this isn't an outward-facing marketing tool. This is just asking all of the other agents in your brokerage who has a listing, who has a buyer. So it's not that outward marketing tool. All right. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box that you see over on the right-hand side. Let me ask this, Todd, when we get imported buyers and you see a buyer that only has 1 or 2 stars, how do I fix that? How do I make it a stronger buyer?
Great question. Yeah, that's super easy. We're just going to, Tom, if you can walk through, just going to click on that buyer. These are all 4 stars, but we'll show you how to do it just in case. And then you see that edit profile link right next to the buyer ID. We'll click on that. And there we go. We have that edit buyer screen where we can enter in all the details we want. We always recommend that you fill in the as thoroughly as possible.
Love it. Absolutely. Just in case you didn't see that, let me see if I can circle this. So here it is. So the edit profile button right there. So if you do see one that gets imported in, it's only that 1 star. The button is right there. So we can click on that and then make sure that we get all of that good stuff in there. All right. I don't see any other questions. Thank you all for being here. We do have these webinars every single week at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you wanted to check out the rest of those, you can see them on our Facebook page, our Facebook group. It's called Buyside Insiders, and that is somewhere you can go and see some best practices, tips and tricks, and of course some testimonials. All right. Thanks everybody, and we will see you next week.